All right, Leafs Talk, home opener edition. I got to tell you right out of the gate, this is a weird thing to say as somebody who is compensated to watch these Toronto Maple Leaf games. I watched a lot more of this Leafs game than I thought I was going to tonight.
Yeah, I told you today that like I was extremely interested in this game.
You were right.
And
you were right. You nailed it.
I knew it was going to be greasy. I knew, like, listen, sure, it's meaningless, but you're playing this team in a week for when it's not meaningless. And these two teams can't stand each other.
Nope.
And it just was a really enjoyable hockey game all the way around. I really loved it.
Seeing two teams not like each other?
Yeah, it's allowed. It is allowed. You know, it's allowed for teams to hate each other, and they hate each other.
How did you feel about the way the refs officiated this game, where they basically said, we know you guys hate each other. We know you want to beat up on one another, but we're going to call a penalty every single time you try and do anything remotely physical with one another.
I hated it. I hated it so much. It just immediately sent me back to spring of 2022, young man, back in the spring of 2022, where they literally called every single thing for 7 games, and then they didn't call another penalty for the rest of the playoffs. Like, it was like, as soon as the second round hit, they're like, no more penalties. We've got them all out of our system in the first round. And it started right away with that like horrible call on Riley with the cross check on Riley, which was just not a penalty. Like, he gave him a little shove from behind, happens 100 times a game. And then they
the Bunting one tonight of all Bunting got his penalty in the second period.
I already got ratioed on that one because I didn't even think that was I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't have a problem. I sent out a tweet saying, and everybody just murdered me for it, so you can too. But like,
I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, if you'll let me explain myself, and so to all the millions of people that follow, all the millions that follow me that were ratioing me tonight, I just felt that. Listen, there was a guy standing there who was engaged with Tavares. One guy pushes him away. There's another guy standing behind Tavares. Looks like the scrum's petering out. They've been taking one guy out the whole night. That's been the standard the whole night. And Bunting, Mr. Penalty, comes flying in over the top right in the ref's eye, looks at him right away and points at him. I thought, like, of all the ones, I mean, it's a really annoying standard, and I didn't like the way it was called. But in the context of the way the game was called, it's a penalty. Like, they were taking one guy away from the scrum every time. There was 7 roughings in this game. There was a million roughing calls, so I didn't really have a problem with that.
I see where you're coming. I see where you're coming from on that. Like, I get it. I think it's a fair position. I thought it was the softest call of the game. I did a full eye roll at the official when I didn't give Bunting the benefit of the doubt, where I went, what did he do? You know, like, I'm the parent who's looking over something being like, what did you do, bad kid? And the kid actually didn't do anything at all. Right. And then I saw the highlight and I went, come on, refs. This is where
I don't want to get bogged down in ref talk.
Well, I do have one thing to say about it, because I had a similar feeling watching this game tonight, where I went, does this benefit Toronto if they end up going this way with the whistle anymore? Like, Toronto is not afraid of that team. Like, this ain't the Maple Leafs of your youth in terms of fear of physical play, fear of that style of game, to me anyways. Like, you and I were texting about it, but they played a real stand-up game, considering 2 of their best guys, 3 of their best guys were not playing in this hockey game. They just kind of stood up to Tampa Bay and they said, yeah, you want to do it this way? Like, we're happy to do it this way. And I think, like, Tampa has a couple more guys in their lineup that are a bit more wild cardy to take the stupid penalty, like the Kucherovs of the world.
Yeah.
I don't mind the game kind of getting out of control a little bit like that. I feel like Toronto is well positioned to kind of hang in those kind of games.
While I do completely agree that I thought Tampa embarrassed themselves at moments tonight with how like much they were trying to muck it up, you know, like, I just thought like they were just kind of being extra, you know, like, you get into a fight with, they were just being over the top. Like, we're the toughest team in the league. Like, we defend each other. Like, it was way over the top from them, big time. But like, the thing, you can't take 8 penalties against Tampa Bay. Like, I know some of them were bad. I know some of them were not the right calls. I know that there's some, ticky tack calls in there, but you can't leave a hockey game where you can't get dragged down into that. You have to be leaving these scrums where you're getting the power play. And the Leafs did what they end up with 6 power plays. They scored 2 power play goals tonight, which that's a great recipe for the Leafs to get a couple power play goals, have a good penalty kill. But you can't, like, I know, listen, I don't think they're going to send him to the power play 8 times in any of these playoff games. Like, I think that'd be crazy. But you can't even be doing 4 or 5 because that power play, they didn't score tonight, but it was horrifying every time they're out there. That Kucherov on the half flank, on the half wall, with like the half clapper fake shot thing that he's done
in there and getting and inching his way closer than that. You're just like
split the puck in 2 over the crossbar.
Where you look behind you and then the bad guy is like getting a little bit closer. That's how I feel like when you're watching Kucherov on the power play.
So I love the fact that the Leafs stood up to it and they didn't look like the idiots a lot of the night. I thought Tampa really was like acting way over the top, but you can't get dragged down into taking 8 penalties. Like you have to find the balance where you are engaged with them, but you have to win the penalty battle against Tampa because that power play will kill you.
Buddy, I think both of us do a pretty good show. Like if you followed Leafs Talk now for 81 of these games,
thank you.
How many times have you and I actually ragged on the officials?
Probably 3,
4. 3, 4?
3 or 4. Yeah.
Like,
we don't really spend a lot of time on it.
We don't do it, man. Ref Talk, I think, is the lowest common denominator. I think it's super lame. I actually think that we as Toronto sports fans have a bit of a complex with officials, like more so than a lot of other sports markets where we just obsess over it. And
that's just the Raptors. That's just the Raptors. No,
but it's the Raptors and it's umpiring and it's also the Leafs, man. People think there's a conspiracy against the Leafs. Look what happened with the Leafs all season long with the 5-on-3 stuff. And yes, it was a little weird, but it became such a huge talking point for people, right? Mm-hmm. But tonight was actually a game that made me a little fearful of the playoffs where I go, this is the position the NHL has put itself in where you have all these people like my boy Versteeg that wants you to call every single play, right? Mm-hmm. Every single thing is a penalty to him. That's the way that he wants the game officiated because he was a smaller skill guy and he sees dudes like Connor McDavid and that's what he wants to see in the game, right? And that's what he likes. He wishes the game was officiated that way when he first started coming up. Mm-hmm. People like me who love the physicality and like a little bit of clutching and grabbing do think that it's more of an art than a science officiating. Like good officiating is art. And
it's
you
have feel for the game. It's a feel for the game.
And exactly. You've got to have the flow of the game. And I thought tonight you could I know the broadcast kept saying that the officials were doing a good job because they weren't letting anything get out of control and they were setting the tone. It's like, I don't want the officials to set the tone ever. Yeah. I don't ever want to go watch a professional sports game, and I'm excited about the 2 teams that are in the rink, and I don't care if that's a regular season game they're going to the playoffs, and the officials in the league have decided this is the tone in which the game will be played. Shut up. Who are you guys? Let them play hockey and do your job. You're supposed to be like a good judge, right? Nobody wants mandatory minimum sentences. What you want is a judge who has a brain, who's able to think on the fly and make an adequate decision because they have the proper training and they're qualified to be where they are. And that's how I feel about refs is they're going to make mistakes. It's always going to be a situation. Maybe sometimes it ends up being the Tavares goal in game 7, which is a nightmare, right? Like sometimes the bounces go against you, but ultimately I'm just afraid in a league that is embracing skill so much that they're calling more and more and more, right? And that we're going to the playoffs and we've had years where it hasn't been called enough. Now we're losing a bit of that physicality and it's gone a little bit swinging too much. Like, could you imagine that was a playoff hockey game? And I'm not saying that it would have been officiated that way.
It was like that. It was like that the whole first round last year. But there was 5-6 power plays every game.
I don't want to watch a special teams battle in the postseason. I don't want to have ticky-tack penalties. And so the fact that it was officiated that way between 2 teams that hated each other, I went, that put the red alert up right away. And I said, please don't have this happen. Someone make sure that this was just we're trying to make sure guys don't get hurt and nothing crazy happens or no one gets suspended rather than like a sign of what things are to come. Anyway, that's my rant on Ref Talk.
You're right.
You're right. I hated tonight's officiating. It was, to me, one of the biggest stories of the game.
Go into the series with an open mind and let the play decide how you're going to call it. Don't go into it with the thought that you're going to call it tight. And listen, I don't think Sheldon Keefe helped a whole lot last year when before the puck was dropped in the first game, went out in front of the media, was like, there's going to be violence. It's going to be violent.
Dude, that was like wild.
That like people forget that he did that. Like, so I don't think that helped anything, but I really, really hope that they give it a chance to be a good physical series within reason. Like, you can't be having line brawls, I understand, every night, but like, let there be scrums, let there be hits, let there be a bit of clutching and grab, and let it be playoff hockey that we all love, that we expect the standard to be different once it starts. You want it to be a little bit more gritty and a little bit more harder checking. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm right with you. I am not encouraged by the fact that in a week they're starting for real, and it looked exactly like it did in the first round last year with the officiating. So we'll see, but I'm not encouraged.
So this game starts, and I actually thought it was going to be kind of dog night for both teams. Like, it felt a little sloppy out of the gate, and maybe sometimes you as the viewer put your own self on the game a little bit, and maybe that was happening for me tonight.
No, you were too busy watching the tour of the new Rogers Center and the intros there. Dan O'Toole had the best tweet of the night. Did you see his say?
Dude, it
like
a
timeshare.
We're not going to be there tomorrow night. I cannot wait to get down to the new Rogers Center.
He said it looked like a timeshare presentation for the Rogers Center. The tour.
Who did that tweet?
Dan O'Toole was a great tweet. I was like, you nailed it. That's what it looked like.
That is a good one. That is also Dan O'Toole, definitely the kind of guy who goes down for timeshare vacations. So he would.
Listen, I went to Cabo for my mom's 70th, and I did multiple timeshare presentations for cheap golf, so I know my way around it.
Yeah, you got some rounds, for that. Okay, so do you want to talk about Knies first, or what do you want to do first? Because I think the physicality we kind of touched on with the refs, that I was impressed with the way that Toronto played. You want to talk? What was the story of the game to you? Because I do think it was the physicality, the way that Toronto just did not look afraid, and frankly, like, whatever. Everybody says it's a curse. Everybody says whatever. I think it means something that Tampa had their full team in this game. That Tampa is now. I wrote it down for my show. In the last 2 months,
they're under 500 since the start of February.
Bay is 12 and now 18.
They're under 500 big time since the start of February. So that's
I think it's 12 and 18.
Yeah. So I keep doing this on Real Kipper and Born. Like, they're talking about how much Tampa has been sucking, and they're always like, oh, they're a different team. And I'm like, I will not hear this. I'm not hearing this. I'm not ready to hear this. I need to see it once the playoffs start. They're a wounded animal. They clearly do not look as good and as deep as they have in years past with that roster, but I'm not even letting myself believe a little bit in terms of them, being out of it in terms of the way that they've looked. So I'm not going to let myself. I know.
I think two things can be true: that Tampa can get into a playoff series and beat the Maple Leafs. Like, there's no doubt about it, but
clearly
it's now gotten to a point for me watching that team tonight. Like, there's no Matthews, there's no Marner, there's no Giordano. They've got their backup goaltender in net, and Toronto finds a way to win that game. Granted, they were outshot, by basically double.
8 power plays helps that.
I think it's a huge disappointment if the Leafs lose this series. Like, I know obviously it's a huge disappointment because of the weight of history and the fact that it would be now 8 years where they haven't gotten out of the first round with this core. But I'm just saying, out of all the matchups that they've had, like, this Tampa team to me is just, it's not last year's Tampa team to me. You cannot convince me that it's the same. And I know that they can kind of check out of it, but I was talking to Curtis McElhaney today, who won 2 cups with those guys. And I asked him, I was like, yo, they can just flip the switch, right? What are you reading into this? And he was like, man, they've played a lot of games and they don't look the same to me. That's a guy who's in the dressing room with those dudes. That's a pretty strong position for a guy that was there for 2 full seasons. Like,
for sure.
They can beat Toronto. I think the series is going to be a tough one for the Leafs, but Toronto shouldn't let this thing go to a 7th game. I just think that they're a better hockey team. If they play their best brand, they should be able to beat that team regardless of what the other guy is doing in net. Toronto is a good goalie too.
It just can't go 7. That's what it comes down to. It can't go 7. Can't go to 7. If it goes to 7, the buttholes get tight and it gets scary. You can't have that. No 7.
Well, I'm not joking. I think they'd have to pay me. I think if they offered me free tickets to go to a game 7 against Tampa, I wouldn't be able to do it.
No, I wouldn't go. No. No, you'd have to pay me like $1,000
to be in the building.
Yeah, $1,000 to go. I wouldn't go. I'd sit there with my head in my hands the entire time. It would not be enjoyable. So you mentioned.
Dude, I was sending you. Actually, I don't think anybody can see those ones, so I don't think I'm encouraging the audience. But I was sending you what my Twitter would have looked like before I got into sports with my Facebook.
Facebook? Oh yeah. nice Dion cover photo, pal.
Dude, I had some painful ones. I actually thought about posting some. I actually screenshot one in case the Raptors play the Atlanta Hawks, because there's just one random one like just shot at the Hawks in like 2009. I'm like, what's happening? There's so many just tweets that, as Shane Gillis says, are for the love of the game, where it's just
for the love of the game.
No one interacting with these takes about the Leafs.
Likes.
Completely unhinged behavior all throughout the mid odds to like 2012, just Facebook status updates, mad about different Leaf stuff. I got too much baggage to be there for a game 7, bro. Yeah. Like, if they were even to lose that and we got to come on here, what a sour affair that is going to be. Bourne will honestly not be able to do that one with us, because it's just like, hey man, you got to clear out and let the shooters
get out of the way. Yeah. Give the ball to Trae Young, Hawks. Yeah. Let him shoot.
This is not time for analysis. This is time for a very job of this organization and everything is done. But no, I'd be Frank the Tank from Barstool and watching that Leafs game. So like, just angry the entire time. I'd keep going to the bathroom. I'd keep lying and saying like, oh yeah, no, I got to go again. And just like hanging out somewhere and trying to plug my ears so I couldn't hear. I don't think I would do it. I don't think I would, but I just think Toronto's better. And I watched that game tonight. I don't think that this is some elaborate possum scheme that Tampa's playing. I don't think that this is we're trying. I think if they thought they were fine, they would have sacked guys tonight like Toronto did. They played their whole roster because they're trying to jumpstart something.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not counting any chickens, but they definitely don't look like they have in years past. No, I know.
I like how we're so damaged that you have to even say that. Like, I'm not counting. Like, what Leaf would
I
ever
am
be saying?
Incredibly
like,
damaged.
No that.
Like, Kipper said to me on here, he's like, "Boy, you got some scars." I'm like, "Oh yeah. You want to see scars, baby? You want to know how I got these scars?" All right.
Last time the Leafs made a deep run, I threw a slushie. I threw a slushie at a television that wasn't a flat screen. Like, I'm old. This is ancient history. Like, that's how long ago it's been since I watched them go deep. So, yeah, I think that it's pretty fair to say that no one's doing anything like cock of the walk-in right now saying that Toronto's going to get this done. But I'm just going to speak the facts, which is that Tampa team is not as good as what Toronto is. I'm sorry. They're just not. Toronto has a bunch of players in their prime. They're fresh. They look hungry. They're a balanced team. They got a good blue line. They got solid goaltending. And that's the next thing I wanted to move into is Joe Woll is 100% the backup goaltender now. Matt Murray, enjoy Robidas Island or whatever other organization you are playing for, because I think we have seen the last of him in a Toronto Maple Leafs uniform.
Yeah, that's the story of the game for me. I know like the physicality and the officiating or whatever, and, having Knies in his second game of the year. So people are kind of going to talk about that. I feel like this performance might have got a little bit swept under the rug. He was unbelievable tonight, dude. He is a young, athletic goalie who makes great reads, sees the puck well, eats rebounds. Like, he's making me feel some kind of way. Like, I really don't know how to project him here, and I don't want to get too ahead of my skis, but God, he looks excellent. Like, legitimately excellent. Like an NHL 1B type of guy, a guy that could give you 30 or 40 games in the NHL and post a decent number. He's a good goalie and a real, like, I don't think they'd go to him in a playoff series if Samsonov falters here. I think it's Samsonov no matter what. But, like, if something was to happen to Samsonov, you're not completely screwed. You're not completely screwed. This isn't going to, like, Mrazek or going to, like, somebody on your backup that stinks. Like, this kid can play. He can absolutely play.
I love what I see from him. And
me too, man.
I'll admit that I definitely, for a little while now, have had some, the wheels are going to fall off here. Like, he's going to have a bad game at some point, and then he keeps not having bad games. And tonight he was his best version of himself. And I would say he had like 5 or 6 tonight where I went, holy crap, what a save. One particularly at the very end of that game.
Unbelievable save.
Like, holy crap. And even he was surprised by himself. He's like, wow, I made that save.
He was looking all over the place for it. He's like, I got it? Wow.
Wow. That was a good one for me, fellas.
Yeah.
Here's what I think about him. You're right. I don't think there's a scenario he gets the net far, unless it's some kind of like 3 straight games where Samsonov, like the Leafs are about to play in a game 4 where they're going to get swept and Samsonov's let in 5 goals every night. Like it would have to be.
That's literally the only option. Nuclear.
It would have to be such an extreme result outside of an injury for him to get the net. Like there's no way. They're riding Samsonov. He deserves the net. He's proven that he's a great goaltender for this team this season anyway. Like, of course. But what I did think about was going into this offseason, if they really feel like he's this guy, he gives them so much flexibility with whatever they're going to do. Like if Samsonov does lay down in the streets and suck in the playoffs, like he's the reason why he breaks their back, and they really do feel like the original reason that he came to town, which is that like the mental fortitude stuff, like that shows up. They have leverage in that contract negotiation. They're like, yeah, man, whatever. We're not paying you anything. And I know he's an RFA, so it probably will be reasonable anyway, and it's hard to think about an upgrade, but at least they have some room. And like with the Murray thing, God knows what it's going to cost them to get off that final year. Again, it's not, people talk about the buyout, but the Leafs are a capped out team trying to win a Stanley Cup. They're not going to carry $2 million of dead money against their cap a year from now, which is what they would do. Like that's a Cali Yarncroc. That's not going to happen for them. Like it's just not going to happen for the Maple Leafs. They're going to move off of that using draft picks. But yeah, I see a guy who could absolutely be the goalie of the future for this hockey team, which is astonishing to think about. But like, that's what he looks like. Big, athletic, sure-headed. Like he's got the pedigree, Team USA guy that was a 3rd-round pick. I like him a lot. I really, really like what I'm seeing every single night. I keep expecting it to be like, sorry, I know I'm going a little long here. I keep expecting it to be one of those things where he's a product of his environment. And then you watch a game like tonight and you go, no, he's not.
He stood on his head. He was the reason they won the game. The Lightning went 0 for 8 on the power play tonight. I'll tell you the number one reason that happened. It's because Joel Woll stood in his head. He was excellent. So
David Camp was really good on the penalty kill tonight too. He had the dumbest play of the season, but he was really good. He's
getting hot. Playoff camp is getting hot. Like he's starting to head towards starting to shoot 3 in past Vasilevsky territory like he did last spring. Like he really is getting hot. So that's good for him. But yeah, Joe Woll, man, it'd be so nice for the Leafs to draft and develop a goalie like this. Like it's just have a kid that just comes out of the woodwork and is just your goalie forever. And I don't know what you're going to have to pay Samsonov. It's not off-season time. It's not really a reason to talk about it. I'm not sure what that contract would start with. But the fact that you can, I don't know what you're going to do with Murray. Maybe he's done. Maybe you LTIR him. Maybe he's on.
I don't see any scenario where Matt Murray's back with the Leafs next year.
But no. I mean, I completely agree with that. But like, I don't know if he wants to play anymore. Like, is there a chance he goes LTI and is gone?
I don't buy that. I don't buy whole.
I was just asking you if you think he would.
Yeah, no, I think he's 28 years old and he's still like, if you're him, you're thinking when I was healthy this year, I felt good.
Yeah, I know. So no, you're gonna have to trade. You're gonna have to trade a pick to get off of that. So we don't need to get bogged down in this.
Yeah.
But like depending on what you're paying Samsonov, you have, like you said, you're paying your backup goalie what, 850, 750. Like it's just like
awesome.
Your picture looks so much clearer with that. It's a huge thing. It's almost like having a quarterback on a rookie scale. Like it's a huge thing.
Guys. Like it's very likely that next year Samsonov and Woll are going to cost what Matt Murray cost the Leafs this season.
Yeah.
Like that.
I bet you.
That's a big tip. It is.
Depending how deep
is going to make it hard for him to get really paid. Like, dude, the goaltending market is just not that crazy. And like, what's another team going to do? Come over the top on Toronto with it and give up draft picks? No way.
No, you're
like,
right.
It's
we'll
just.
See.
I don't think that's going to happen. Plus, if you think about it, like a lot of the decent teams do have goaltending. Like what Carolina is going to do it. I don't know, man. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think goalies are lottery tickets, and it's going to be if my take about them back 10 years ago that goalies are going to become running backs is true. It's like, look at running backs right now. Like look at Austin Eckler. He's like, I'm one of the best guys in the league. Everybody wants to own me in fantasy football. I'm the safety valve for Justin Herbert. And the Chargers are like, goodbye. You want money? Get out. Like, get out. There's the door. And guess what? Some guy on the Chargers next year is going to be some fantasy dynamo, and you're going to go, holy hell, where'd they get this guy? He's going to be like, 4th round pick,
Yep.
some fast kid. Like, it's lottery ticket time. Anyway, last thing for me is just Knies.
Yeah.
Do you change your mind at all tonight watching him play? Because he looks good again. Looking good. Would you like to update your Knies scorecard?
I would like to see one more game. I thought tonight.
You guys are real Kipper born today, going around the horn pretty hard on the kid, and then he comes out here tonight and he kind of stuck.
We all said game 1, right? There was a game 1 if he gets in, and I still would stick with that. I think he had an awesome night tonight, where his game over game improvement for his second game in the NHL I thought was remarkable. I just like tonight. I didn't. It's funny. I still don't notice the size. His skating, it's a little hunched over. So like when he's actually skating, he doesn't look nearly as big as he does. But I got a tweet about a guy that said to me that when he was standing beside Ryan O'Reilly and he's like bigger, it's like, oh, okay, he is bigger. But the way he's kind of hunched over when he's skating, he doesn't look as big. But his puck work tonight and his ability just to make little reads and all this stuff, he definitely has something that none of the guys in the bottom 6 that we talk about him have, right? So it's tantalizing. My favorite word, buddy. I am tantalized, but I'm still on team
Sammy tantalized counter.
But on game 1, I'm still saying no.
Well, to be fair, the last guy that got the tantalizing counter was Yusei Kikuchi, so it's not an infallible system. The tantalizer scale, but I will just say that I really thought a lot, and I started my podcast today before I got to McElhaney with this. But Sheldon Keefe mentioned in the post game, and I thought that was really important, where he went, this guy had to get all of his paperwork filed, get a contract done, fly in here, leave his teammates, play in an emotional hockey game, wrap up his college career, show up, jump in the lineup with new line mates, with grown men, play a desperate Florida Panthers team. He held his own, and now he's playing the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I just thought about that series, and I went, you look like you belong here. I can't say that you don't. And I'm sticking with what I said yesterday, which is I think that Lafferty and Zach Aston-Reese have earned spots. It's really hard for me, same as you guys, to picture them out of the lineup. I tweeted as much, like, he's not cracking this. I just think Knies has really exceeded my expectations of just kind of how poised he looks with the puck. You're right about the hunch thing, but he does look 6'3" to me, or he does look like a big kid when he puts his back to someone and he starts working behind or along the boards, and you go, boy, it seems really hard for grown men to get the puck from him. So he must be kind of a wagon. So I like the way he carries himself. Seems to have a ton of confidence. I got glowing reviews for the kid, and I would say that, it's not a hill I'm going to die on. Like, you have to play him in game 1. I'm not doing one of those stupid hot takes. But if the Leafs did it, I wouldn't be like, what a mistake, which I kind of thought it would have been a couple of weeks ago.
He fires the puck. He had a chance early in the game on the power play, I think the second unit, where he got it around the top of the circle. And he's got that, like, I don't know what they're teaching in America, but they all kind of have that slingshot release now. All these kids coming up that fire it like that. You think of Cole Caulfield. Obviously, you think of Austin Matthews. You think of these kids that, like, even the Kachucks kind of do it, where they bring the hands way in, they fire it really quick, like it's like a slingshot. And the one that he scored on, or he almost scored on, Ryan O'Reilly, like, he had to put it in. He couldn't wait any longer on it, but I still think, I was like, oh, you just wait one more second on that, Ryan. Just wait one more second.
I don't think he knew who shot the puck.
Well, he couldn't wait. It was sitting on the goal line. You got to knock it in the net. You got to score the goal. But he blew that through, an elite goalie. Like, that was a hard, heavy shot. He comes down off the blue line, stick on the ice, one, bang the stick, give it to me. I'm ready to fire it. It's on his stick. It's off his stick. That's what I mean. Like, and he fires it hard. Like, those 2 shots that he had tonight, the kid can fire it. Like, and I listen, not game 1, but I definitely will rescind my take that he's not playing against Tampa. He is definitely playing against Tampa. I just don't know which game it's going to be in.
Yeah. That's it for me. You got anything else?
Yes, I do.
Luke Shen. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Listen, the Luke's troops, you've kicked me out. You said that because I said
you're back. I'm just a little sour because I was, I felt a little bang in the group chats. you were really starting to point out his poor play. But I was texting with former, or fellow like Sasky guy, Colby Armstrong tonight, going like, what do you feed those boys out in Saskatchewan? Because those fellas are farm strong. Well, and buddy, Patrick Maroon for the Leafs for a long time has been a problem. Like when that fourth line last year, when they got down below the net and they started to crunch guys, it was an issue. And then all of a sudden to see Luke Schenn blast him and then Maroon want a piece of it for a second. And then Schenn go like, it looked like Schenn just grabbed like a whole part of his face and beard and just put a whooping on him. Like he didn't want it whooping on him. Like he was the bigger man, the stronger man. And the guy that's the nickname Big Rig, like could not hang in there with Luke Schenn.
Look at him. He's doing the thing where you put the arm behind and you hide your face. He's like,
that's a big brother move. That's a big brother. Like you little, like you thought twerp. You came,
you twerp.
You came here to mess around. You're going to get pummeled. He did. He got beat down, crunched, grabbed, punched. I love that so much. I'm telling you right now, we talked about if Kampf had scored the Michigan. Some guy tweeted at me. He went, "What's that moment for you in the Leaf season?" I went, "It's the number one moment of the season for me." I love that more than anything. I'm telling you, I really believe that in my heart.
So Maroon, I kind of agree with that take. Well, no, he's not that tough. He's really not that tough of a guy. He's not that tough of a guy. He's a guy that's like in that middleweight class, a guy that's like in people's faces, will fight, but doesn't love to fight really. And he like, you'll see here, he engaged with them and he's like, I don't think he really expected it to escalate. And Schenn got the gloves off first. It's like, oh, this is a fight now. And he beat the wheels off him.
Anytime you try to put somebody in a headlock for that long, I think you should know that it's fight time.
I just think that it's a little bit like, this is a little bit maybe over the top, but it's symbolic for the Leafs to have a guy that's probably Tampa's toughest guy. Is that like their toughest guy, Maroon?
Until Jeannot.
Yeah, and Jeannot is, I don't know if Jeannot is going to play, but now on the ice,
he'd be a problem. Those are both he's the toughest guys. Again, like something in the fields there. Like they are giving their kids different milk than what we get in Ontario, the rigged milk.
But you said like to have that guy who's been a pain in the Leafs' ass and just to have him neutralized. Like he got beat up by the Leafs guy. The Leafs guy scored a goal, and then Pat Maroon was out for the rest of the game. Like Luke Schenn literally just took him out. He took him out. Like a guy that's been a pain in the ass to the Leafs for 7 games last year, yapping at their bench in everybody's ear, causing shit the entire game. And Luke Schenn's just like, I'm going to beat you up now. And he just beat him up and he didn't come back. So amen. Luke's troops. We are back. We are back, baby.
Luke's troops, baby.
Luke's troops. And I will say, and I got one more note for you. Connor Timmins, better defenseman than forward.
Yeah. I really did think about what his thought process must have been like today when he got that news.
He's like, I'm playing. Like, you're playing tonight on the wing. He's like, oh, sick. Great.
You know what that made me think of was, remember when I said popular sports fans' bad takes that were just permeated throughout?
Caberlet.
Yeah.
Caberlet, and it's Morgan Riley, buddy. I bet you, if I were going to power rank the DMs I got this year in the amount, high on that list would be try Morgan Riley on the wing. Like that is it's a popular take for Leaf fans that they're like the slightly bad offensive defenseman should be a forward. Like it happened with Jake Gardner. It always happened with Jake Gardner. Try him at forward.
Yeah. He was always meant. I love how guys think they're the coach when they come up with that one. Like they think that
he's just got offensive instincts. Just put him up there.
Like these guys have been around a rink. They were like an assistant coach of their kids' peewee team. And they're like, I saw Jake Gardner play and he's miscast. Like, we gotta get him up the lineup and have him playing forward where he belongs. I can't believe none of these coaches. Man, do you remember that one game we went to, that Minnesota Wild game where there was the guy in the captain jersey, and the whole game he's like trying to coach up the team, and we're like,
nightmare.
We're in the 300s.
Like, Bozak scored an unbelievable goal that night. Toe drag, backhand. I can't remember my email password, but I remember that.
Yeah, of course. But anyway, there's some of those guys, there's some of those fans out there. God bless you, because some of you are watching right now. You're like, what's wrong with a little coaching?
We need you.
Just, I don't see the issue. Is give it a shot. You give it a try. Try lots of crazy things. But yeah, it's all right, fellas. It's all right. The uncles out there. You guys got the home run jacket gone this year. Like, you won for 2. Like,
now you got to watch Baltimore with the dong bong. So good luck with that.
Boy, that's a tough one. Yeah, that's a tough one. All right, you done? Luke,
all good, brother.
Anyway, time to go. Awesome night for Luke Shen. Moment of the season for me. Thank you, Luke. Thank you for what an incredible. I never thought that after Spezza.
Throw up your L's.
It's the LT. You got to get the Ross. Yeah, like, you got to get the Luke's troops. You got to get it. You got to get it down. I loved it. Anyway, for JD Bunkis, for Sam McKee, subscribe to the podcast, leave 5 stars, hit the thumbs up button on YouTube. If you want to follow us, there's our handles right there, both for Instagram and Twitter. Like I said, I keep my DMs open, so hit me up anytime. You got comments, you got questions, do it, share it, and we'll see you for the final Leafs talk of the regular season on Thursday night against the Rangers.
Where's the time gone, bro? I can't wait for the game tomorrow night, too. Go Jays, go.
Oh, see you at the Jays game tomorrow night. All right, see you then.